So you want me to review this that much? You seriously do? Alright, let's watch the world burn! Look, I'm gonna be honest, I'm coming into this show kinda biased.
Oh, hell no!
I can't help it. The first episode was so boring that it was much more fun to point at the inconsistencies and look at the surrounding controversies that seem to get more and more wild.
Off to hang myself, horse and left!
But since I've been strong-armed to my audience to talk about the show again, like seriously 20k likes, wow, and the donations, what is wrong with you people? I love you so much! So, the video structure is gonna be a little different this time around. Since I didn't want to suffer alone this time, throughout this video we'll be getting cameos from other people. Mostly people I could scrape up at the local bar while I was getting my own booze level up. Between each section, I'll be bringing a guest who will give their opinions on the series because I think it's important to understand something. I'm just a dude! And as such, I'm subject to things such as my own biased and fallacious thoughts.
I want some peanuts.
Besides, it's fun to get other people's perspectives, thoughts, and make them suffer as much I did. Also, spoilers, I guess? So let me make a case for why this show is bad. But before anything else, I've got a question. So, who the hell is this show for?
Alma, you in here?
Oh, she's out back. She's elbow deep in turnips.
Hey, slime boy.
Like, I know what the edgy answer is. Pink-haired, Tumblr-loving, Twitter mob starting, feminists. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Look, it's easy for me to think that this show could easily be targeted at people who like...
Okay, you're too busy to help, so I'm gonna kill the car bumper. Jesus, I shot myself! Ugh, I shot myself! Back up, back up!
Stupid dog! You made me look bad!
That's the easy route to take, and probably the route that could possibly turn me into the next ER. But that would ignore the actual question at hand, plus my own personal issues with it. Who is the targeted demographic? Now, with the cutesy art style with the bright colors, round shapes, and soft details of the characters, one would expect to be for little kids, right? So what's a grown-ass man like me watching this? I should be watching crap like this! Now that's entertainment! Well, here's the thing. At the beginning of each and every episode, we get this disclaimer slapped onto the beginning, saying how this show has explicit content. And I'm wondering, what? Look, aside from light cussing and some blood here and there, which isn't really all done that well,
bodily fluids really aren't my thing. Cut me some slack.
I don't see why it needs a mature rating, maybe a teen rating at best. They appear to copy the child-friendly aesthetics of Steven Universe and such, but then throw in swear words and issue a content warning. It'd be kids who would like the aesthetics and would benefit from the not-so-subtle sexuality lessons in the first place that are in the show, but they outright tell people it's not for kids. I mean, the clunky dialogue kind of gives it away that we're not watching something like Berserk. And to be completely fair, and yes, I'm going to be fair with this video as best I can,
Excellent.
I could see this being more of a fuck-up on the corporate end of things rather than the show. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Crunchyroll screwed things up with their decisions. I think there's a lot of issues with the show. But I also want to point out there are some issues that I've had with it that aren't the showrunners or the show itself's fault. Tumblr pilling notwithstanding. But with how the bigwigs handled the trailer, I'm willing to bet that there was some corporate meddling. Unfortunately, we'll never know the truth, but it is out there somewhere. Even if the disclaimer wasn't there, it's still very weird, because while there are scenes of violence and blood in the show also treats its audience like little kids.
Is that your sister?
It's me, actually.
You are a girl?
So boring.
I'm transgender.
I don't know that word.
I was born into a female body, but
Make
it
it
wasn't
stop.
the right body for me.
Damn it, Wade!
If this was for a mature audience, then wouldn't it be reasonable to expect them to know what the trans person is? An explanation like that is really only necessary for people who would be unfamiliar with the concept. It just seems to cross the wires, then blows up in the show's face.
Honestly, Kamen, I wanted to ride on the High Guardian Spice shitting on train, but unfortunately, I couldn't find a torrent of it. It's that pathetic. People don't even want to pirate it. So you could watch it for free on Crunchyroll, but you would have to watch it on Crunchyroll. I don't want to add to their metrics. It's not even like a Netflix situation where I could say that I could find something great there. So I guess I'm kind of blessed because I didn't have to watch it. Hooray! It's still cringe though. From what I've seen online,
Climb walls and stuff.
It's been fun, Aster, but... yeah.
Should have known you were stuck up.
Wow, son, we need to have a word.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
I said no.
Are we there yet?
What's wrong with your ears?
Let's cut to the chase. There are positives to the show. I like Olive. She's an antagonist.
There's fireworks, revelry, you'll love it. Belly rub.
And while ripping off some other characters, I can appreciate that she's actually pretty competent and shown to be uncomfortable with being ordered to kill the main character, since that's not something she wants to do. That's an interesting dynamic for a villain. I like that. Mandrake is a pretty badass villain. I love psychopaths in these kinds of shows. It's a shame that he didn't win though. Which, you know, when you make your villains more entertaining and likable than your main characters, and you're not supposed to, you know there's a problem. Not help that the writers suddenly made Mandrake so stupid that he would lose to this.
I fail to see the logic here.
And there is a plot to the show, but here's the problem. We don't get to that plot until 8 episodes in.
Spitto.
No joke, more than half of the series is more or less dedicated to slice-of-life fantasy, and the last 5 episodes, while having more of the plot, still have a ton of that slice-of-life stuff jammed into them. Now, slice-of-life fantasy is not a bad thing. No, no, no. Genre isn't the problem here, folks. It's the execution of how it's done. I'll get more into the performances later, but what I'll say here is that how the show drags its heels. I understand that we're getting a lot into the character development of our 4 main leads, but with how it's done, it really makes it hard for me to want to watch. And it's not like the show's about nothing can't be entertaining. Seinfeld proves that notion wrong.
No, forget the story. You gotta have a story. Who says you gotta have a story?
There's a reason why shows like this actually make a lot of sense. But what doesn't help is, well...
Why are you guys even here?
Now, one of the major criticisms of the first episode was a lack of motivation for our characters. And wouldn't you know it, a few episodes in, we finally get that motivation. Kinda. Parsley wants her own walk in life away from her family. Time made a deal with her parents, and that's about it. I guess we could say that Rosemary's motivation is to follow her mother's footsteps, and Sage?
There's nothing here!
It took so long to know what our characters' motivations were, which isn't a problem since unless you're the main character, I don't expect to get your motivations for what you want to do after you say hello. This is due to the pacing and structure of this show, and it's just a kick to the crotch. Gonna be honest, I just wanted an excuse to use that clip in this video. The show loves to waste your time, and they do this by cutting up a lot of the episode into sections for each character. It really messes with the pacing when we're cutting from scene to scene to scene. This is kind of a problem that there was with Ruby, and I hate to make a comparison to Ruby with this since I saw a video that basically said, "High Guardian Spice is better than Ruby," which I guess to some degrees I agree with, but disagree with it on a whole. I understand wanting to give screen time to every character, but by doing so, you really make your episode come off as disjointed. And this is really notable in the earlier episodes since we have to juggle about 3 different plots and they get cut into each other. And thus, when you do that and you cut from a scene that's supposed to be intense, you kind of ruin the pacing you had. It'd be like you had a scene like this.
Jumpstart the economy. is lining you.
And interrupted with this. Even if both scenes have their own entertainment value, you actively hurt the engagement with your audience with both when you suddenly cut between the different plots so much. Frankly, with how a lot of the episodes are structured, I would even suggest that they do the Cartoon Network thing, where each episode is actually 2 episodes and have their own unique structure, and you can still have them connected. The best example would be episode 10, where we follow Parsley and Thyme going to summon a demon. Look, I know out of context that's gonna raise a few eyebrows, but, they're the good guys! It's not like they'd summon the demon and just kill it, right?
No.
Oh. Fast forward! And the more slice-of-life stuff that the rest of the cast deals with into the other part. You could have the scene where Rosemary sets up the B-plot of the episode and show what's going to happen, but then have each individual plot have its own segment, so that way you're not wrecking the pace of both scenes by cutting to each other. Pacing is one of the show's worst attributes, whether it be in the interjecting scenes that happen way too much, or even the dialogue. Speaking of dialogue...
First lesson is how to take pride in your weapon.
I mean, crap, man. Look at that. You don't see that every day. I mean, I'm no doctor, but that doesn't really even seem possible.
Now you're just being nasty.
Let's get this out of the way. The music sucks. Normally, when it comes to media, I tend to be a lot nicer to things if they have good music quality to them. Pokemon Sword and Shield, while not being the best Pokemon games of all time, were still enjoyable experiences, and that's due to a major part of the music. I mean, have you listened to Marnie's theme? Or Hops? Those snippets are a lot better than the forgettable tracks that was in High Guardian Spice, and that can actively hurt your scenes. Good music can add a little bit more emotional punch to your scenes and make your action stand out more. I know this is purely a subjective thing, and who knows, maybe there are people who do like the music in this series. Hey, there are fans who like it, and are willing to say some crazy bat shit, so anything is possible. Let's take a moment, though, to compare and contrast what's supposed to be badass moments, shall we? High Guardian Spice.
Got you now!
And then... You tell me which one had a lot more impact and had more punch to the music. So yeah, the music isn't great. And that can hurt a series, not even the main theme, something that should, by law, be good. But it's boring. But that's not the only issue. It's also the dialogue and voice acting.
Okay, well, that was a test. Good job. You passed.
We'll scale mountains and fight mermaids and explore precipices and crevices and we'll be totally fearsome dudes.
Totally fearsome dudes.
I railed on how some of the characters sounded bored or just doesn't stick, but my friends, it gets worse. Much worse. And I'll happily admit that this is a me thing, and I'm being petty as all hell. But when you've got 2 of my favorite voice actors, both of whom play prominent and iconic villains, I got a problem with that. You got Barbara Goodson, Rita Repulsa, a voice actress who not only has a lot of great range and can put a lot of emotion into her voice.
Walk with me, talk with me. Oh, you made me step in a puddle, you nitwit!
You have her voice the most boring and milquetoast character, make her sound extremely bored.
About extortion and ethics last week. Your spell's already corrupt.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
I concur with the great point Parnell just made. The spell is mangled. How about instead let's go throw pebbles at other pebbles?
And make her sound bad.
Oh, I have such a headache!
How do you do that? This is a crime against nature.
I have got some opinions.
No. No, no, no. You did not. Liquid!
Snake, you've been talking to me, dear brother.
Nappy Cat?
How the...
I am not shitting you here. You have Cam Clark, the voice behind one of gaming's most iconic villains, and you made him into a cat?
And... wait, what's my name?
Your name. It's Nappy Cat.
I am Nappy Cat.
Oh, Cam, what have you done to me, boy? Why? Look, to be honest, I am being hyperbolic here for the sake of comedy. Duh. But you've got some good talent here, and I think it's honestly being wasted. And the way they're directed really rubs me the wrong way.
What about Pro ZD?
What about him? And it's not like the other actors are stellar. They range from passable to, well...
My wrist feels like it's on fire.
And this really hurts the scene since it makes it unintentionally funny. And it sucks because that scene is actually pretty wholesome.
Would you still like me if I painted my nails?
Only if you promise to stick to flattering colors.
Be serious.
High Guardian Spice is filled with scenes like this where the bad voice direction kinda hurts it. Hell, I was debating whether or not to bring up this factoid, but apparently the creator of the show also voices a character. Turns out Ray, he by the way, voices this professor. Now, I'm putting aside all the red flags that insert characters can bring to the table. And yes, I'm pretty sure that this is a self-insert character. The character's trans, Ray voices this character, and they have a somewhat similar look. It's not a phase, Mom! Look, we're getting off topic here, but so long as the character doesn't do any weird shit or hits on the young characters, I don't have a problem with this. Except with how Ray voices this character, since he comes off as really stilted and you can tell he has no experience voice acting.
That was one of my favorite missions. We almost died 4 times. Oh, I see. You want the gory details?
I sound better and more confident than this. So just make sure that we don't learn anything about this character that can make me go,
How do you guys and Professor Bunny know each other?
Oh, we
go to the same parties.
oh, son of a...
So getting into High Guardian Spice for me personally, I think one of the things that I noticed very quickly when watching the actual series as a whole was the inconsistency with the art design. And this could range from things like them not actually drawing things, and for example, the particular elf that, of course she is a bow user, they would sometimes not actually draw her bow completely. And of course, some people could have came up with the fan theory that, oh, her bow kind of, you know, pushed out, like it was like a little gadget and it, you know, came out, but in no way did the actual story explain that. It was just basically, hey, we didn't actually draw the bow completely in this scene, so uh-oh. Other things were also sizing. Sizing was a massive thing that I noticed was completely off balance from the very beginning all the way through to the last episode. Was that, for example, on the particular bus, there was these 2 particular guys that were, of course, managing it. One would take the ticket, one would put the luggage on the top, and would take the 2 particular girls, put them on the top. And the one thing I noticed was in one scene, they were a very specific height in comparison to the actual bus. And then in the next scene, their size completely changed massively. And this wasn't just a once-off. This occurred multiple times, and it also led to really weird situations where certain characters' legs would look massively longer, and it would almost look like they don't even have like a a waist at all. Like their legs would go all the way up to their chest because of how they tried to change the heighting of certain characters so that they could fit into a frame. That's just a couple of instances where the art became very out of proportion. Other things would also be still shot images. And this is something they used a lot of. Still shot images that just, again, had characters in the background that were meant to stand out a little bit more, but they never moved. So when the characters are moving throughout the world, certain characters would be so still, it would just feel weird. Like they'd be going through a market and they'd be going past a stall and the guy at the stall wouldn't even budge. They'd like look at the food, they walk away, and the guy is still dead still. That is extremely creepy. And then another instance would be in the classroom and the teacher standing at the front talking, and you'd look at the background and there's a still shot image of all these shelves. And you could see very quickly, if you looked for a split second, that all they did was they made a couple of little assets for the drawers and then just copied and pasted them and then just shuffled them around, like maybe resized them or flipped them around. And it just again showed that there was no real effort put into the actual art itself. And I mean, I'm brushing over the whole PNG situation because everyone knows about the particular this certain bread that was, of course, a PNG stock image, and then, of course, the lamp. It honestly feels like they rushed it at the end, and I don't understand that, being that this series was been in development for 2 years, and yet for some reason it looked like a school project that was rushed over the last weekend by a couple of mates. I'm honestly puzzled and perplexed on how a series that had 2 years looked like it was something that was rushed overnight. Honestly, you could hire a bunch of artists on Twitter, ask them to make some still shot images for cheap, and probably save the amount of money that Crunchyroll apparently claimed to have put into this. I mean, apparently they put a lot of money into this. Like, I don't even know. They don't really specifically say. They just kind of brag like, oh yes, we're putting all this investment in there. And I would assume that Crunchyroll being Crunchyroll, they claim to put all this investment into it. They would have done the same amount of what other anime studios would do. So I would expect, a couple of $100,000 put into this series. I could honestly hire a couple of artists on Twitter for a couple of $1,000 and draw some still shot images that would be far more consistent, far better looking, and I could honestly get some where there are different frames so at least the characters look like they're at least alive, and at least have it completed as well and not completely out of proportion, unfinished, and honestly feel like they've copied and pasted certain parts across it. I'm honestly very confused how a group of people that bragged and boasted that they've put so much heart and soul into this came out like a high school project that honestly I would have expected better from the high school project. That is what puzzles me. The audacity to brag and belittle other companies, other studios, to then produce something of even lesser quality. It's a little bit weird. Honestly, I could go into other things like voice acting, inconsistencies when it came to the actual story itself, where how it's a world of magic and all these mystical things going on. Like, they're trying to go with this Ruby/Harry Potter theme, and there's meant to be so much magic in this world, and yet they need manual labor to do something that they've also got steam engines for. They've got steam engines in this world, but they needed manual labor for these two particular people to manually wheel this thing up to go up a hill when they've got steam engines and magic in this world. That puzzles me. The inconsistency within the story and the world building is way out of proportion. But honestly, this feels like it was a project that was started, it was cancelled, or at least put on hiatus, and then started up at the last minute, and they were told, you've got a very short period of time and a very limited budget. And maybe that could, and again, this is just an opinion. I honestly don't know if my opinion is even true. It could be completely out of whack, but it makes me wonder, because of the acquisition that happened with Crunchyroll, maybe certain higher ups said, no, we're not going to do this project, and a bunch of people kicked up a stink and said, no, we want to do this, and they said, fine, this is your limited budget, this is your limited time, you've got a you've got a very limited window to work with. But even then, with 2 years, you would think that, again, there would have been some area for them to work with. And the fact that, again, people were hoping for a season 2 from this series, and many of the people on the project have left, I don't know. Clearly something happened at Crunchyroll that ended up with this complete disaster of a series. And any other series that would have done the same, you know, anime out there, I would criticize in the same manner. Particularly when you're using stock images as part of your anime series.
Give it to him. Where you at, dog? See? I'm on my land. We're both in America, which used to be a good country, until they started letting people like you do whatever you want.
When it comes to the characters, it's a mixed bag. I'll give this cast something. I didn't actively hate them, unlike, say...
Look, we're supposed to be in this, together. You can trust us. We're not gonna turn our backs on you.
Moments later.
That bastard! Tell him we're not done yet!
That was a lie. And he was only saying it to hurt you.
At least the cast isn't filled with hypocritical assholes. But it's not helped that the main characters are extremely generic. They make the elf girl the archer, they make the protagonist perfect even when she fails, makes the strong one the hammer user, the quiet one the magic user, makes dragons bad guys, and there's little male characterization. And most male characters aren't put in the greatest of lights.
Rose Barb's strength today showed me that I have a lot to learn.
Oh, hell no!
About myself, and how girls look cute when they climb walls and stuff.
It's been fun, Aster, but...
That was truly cringeworthy.
Should have known you were stuck up.
Wow, son, we need to have a word.
Hell, I like the villains and side characters more. Olive and Mandrake, as I already stated, literally steal the show whenever they're on screen. Like, I don't know if I just like villains more as I'm getting older, but I really enjoy a good villain in the media that I consume. Plus, I do love a good psychopath character.
I'm shocked you're still alive.
And I'm not shocked you're as ugly as ever.
Oh, I think I'm adorable. What a cute little kitty. Can I break its neck?
And I don't think that's the intent of the creators, that I should like the bad guys more than the main cast. Hell, the side cast is more entertaining.
Feel alive!
Like, let's take a moment to talk about design. I get they're going for a more conservative design philosophy here, kind of ironic considering the show is touted as being progressive.
We go to the same parties.
But how the hell do you mess up cute girls, especially for the main cast? Now, I'll admit that I'm a sucker for cute anime girls, but design-wise, the 4 main leads aren't that appealing. And if I had to say who's got the most appealing design, it'd be Parsley, and that's kind of being generous.
That's what I said. Sodium chloride.
And you've got a red-haired girl. That's my weakness for cute girls. How do you mess this up?
Ouch, Dad. Isn't it society's fault I'm the way that I am?
Oh, yeah. Their personality. Yeah, that'll do it. Well, they made Snapdragon as a cuter girl than the other girls, and Snap's officially canon trans. Boy, do I like being told that outside the show, not like I've ever railed on that concept before. In any case, despite the side characters being much more entertaining, the biggest issue with the main cast is that they don't really develop. There's no real development to the characters. Like, at best you can say that Sage becomes more accepting of new magic, and that's pretty much it. Even the side characters who get more development have their development be rushed. Like, Snapdragon has got the most development, along with Axe Girl, but considering their side characters, they're pushed to the side since the show isn't focused on them. Although you wouldn't know it considering how much screen time they get. There's a conflict in the festival episodes where Rosemary and Sage apparently had a ton of rage building up in them, but, like, there's no real build-up in the previous episode, so it comes out of nowhere.
You think I'm annoying?
Oh god, yes! Here's a question. Why does Sage think that Rosemary is annoying?
Because fuck you!
I mean, I can understand why from an outside third-person perspective, but the show does not do a good job of setting that up. The show lacks things like foreshadowing, proper setup, or, you know, brain.
Bizarre to see professors in the wild. It's like your people. If you want me to be excited...
Oh, you can stay. I'm out of here. The biggest issue is that we don't know why we should care for these characters, and I hate to go back to my first video on the subject, but considering the episode wasted so much time, It's mind-boggling. The first episode should have had scenes that allowed us to see Rose's mother and how she was the inspiration for Rosemary to want to become a guardian. Maybe have the mother save Rosemary and Sage from a monster or something? Anything! At this rate, the mother is nothing more than a plot device. She's a nothing character.
Your entire existence is a mistake.
Hell, I didn't think I'd make a reference to this, but Yu-Gi-Oh! GX did a better job at it. And it too didn't establish a lot about our main character in the first episode. And he too goes to an academy where he's learning to be the best. And I say learning with quotes. We learn in the first episode why he's going to Duel Academy. He wants to be the best duelist. In addition, for some reason you don't know what a duelist is because you never heard of Yu-Gi-Oh! We get a proper demonstration of what a duelist does. They duel in a card game that's insanely popular in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! And we can see that Jaden's got some skills as
The attack points of that golem are dealt straight to your life points. Sweet, huh? No way! Game. So I guess I passed the test, huh, Teach?
So there's some reason to actually root for Jaden. Man, I can't believe I managed to bring up Yu-Gi-Oh! GX in this. How do you do a worse job than 4Kids?
That's why, Poopyhead! My mommy says I'm really strong!
Oh, Sean Schemmel, don't ever change. Look, when your villains steal the show, that's when you know there's a problem, especially since we're supposed to be rooting against them. Again, I like it when characters go insane. It's entertaining.
That nickname you love so much. Wanna know how I got it? Actually, why don't I give you a demonstration?
God, I really need to make a Metal Gear Rising video sometime. I shouldn't be too harsh. The characters aren't terrible.
Wait, girls. Perhaps we could work out a...
No.
For the most part.
Isn't it society's fault I'm the way that I am?
Look, part of the reason why it was so hard for me to like these characters was because of the dialogue and the rather poor attempts at humor.
Maybe it's got rabies. Come on, Sage. Do you want rabies?
Yeah, that's not funny.
Really, part of the reason why the characters fall flat most of the time is due to the delivery of their lines, as well as the fact that the writers really didn't seem to want to plan things out with the writing. It's disjointed as all hell. We're asked to care about these characters, but we're not given a reason to care about them because the show likes to drag its heels. And now we come to the part of the video that's going to get me lynched.
Hey there, Shiloh from Patchwork Heart here. I'm a friend of MangaKamen's and one of the editors here on the channel. Kamen invited me to join him in this review to talk about something a little sensitive. Specifically, gender representation in High Guardian Spice. See, I'm intersex and non-binary, so my experiences with gender are incredibly complicated. Because of that, Kamen thought it would be interesting to have someone like me talk about the trans rep here, because my demographic is one of the groups directly affected by this representation. And honestly, though the quality is mediocre, I have a soft, affectionate tone toward the queerness in High Guardian Spice. First off, Professor Caraway. I love this man. He is soft, nurturing, and despite being a clear self-insert for the series creator, I genuinely find him to be an interesting, if shallow, character. And he treats his queerness and transness with a clear level of banality, expressing it to Rosemary when she asks the question, with no fanfare or shame. Many find this representation ham-fisted, and I can empathize with that perspective, as the show sometimes has pacing issues or lackluster writing. But seeing a trans masculine character in a position of both care and authority makes me very happy. The other major example of trans rep is this adorable little egg, Snapdragon. In queer lexicon, egg is a vernacular used to describe young genderqueer folks who are still exploring their identity but don't have a label for themselves yet. Every trans person you know was once an egg. A good person to use as an example is the YouTuber Abigail Thorne, who openly experimented with femininity on her channel before transitioning and coming out as a trans woman. If you were to watch her content over time, you can actually pinpoint where it stopped being experimental and started being earnest gender expression. Many trans people refer to this as cracking the egg. But back to the subject at hand. Snapdragon is a young student who, at time of recording, still identifies as a boy. He's sardonic and a little bitchy, which is part of why he's one of my favorite members of the cast. I always have a big heart for characters like Snap, but he has a lot of struggles with certain issues.
And that, I'm a girl. You couldn't possibly understand. Girls and guys and guys and girls and girls and... I'm sick of you talking like that. I'm sick of a lot right now.
During a Spooky Month episode, Snap tries doing drag at the assistance of a dear friend in order to have coordinating costumes, specifically a mermaid and a pirate. It's clear that Snap enjoys dressing as a mermaid, and that presenting as feminine makes him feel good. He even runs into Sage, who notes how beautiful Snap looks as a girl. Or at least he does enjoy it, until a classmate shames him publicly for the act of being in drag, as a deflection from his own attraction to Snapdragon in drag. Shithead McGee over here continues to bully Snapdragon for what, in all honesty, was simple youthful fun, to the point where Snapdragon beats his ass for it. And as someone who went through similar issues as a young queer, I felt kinda seen here. The rage of being bullied for the bare act of self-exploration is something that boils and burns for a long time. Quite a few of my suspensions in high school were because of incidents like this. And then there's this scene.
I hate being big, my boxy shoulders, and this? My dad had a full beard by the time he was 12. I don't want that. I want smooth skin and smaller hands, and I don't know, it's like the girls, they look so strong and beautiful as mermaids. I want to be a warrior like that.
In the queer community, this is called gender envy. It's referred to as one of the earliest signs of being trans, and is something that a lot of queer folks can relate to. Finding out that a solution exists and that he can transition if he wants clearly lifts Snapdragon up and makes him feel hopeful. But there's more to this scene.
Snapdragon, you have time to figure it out. There are so many paths to becoming your true self, and this one is mine. I'm not saying that it's yours. There are always more options than you think.
Thanks, Professor Caraway, for actually listening.
Caraway is an elder queer trying to help one of his students feel normal. Conversations like this, though in real life usually a lot more eloquent, happen every day. Sometimes you need an elder queer to help crack your egg for you, to let you know that there are other people with similar experiences, similar identities, and similar struggles. It can feel liberating. It can feel freeing. And most importantly, it can make you feel less afraid. The dialogue is clunky in High Guardian Spice. The pacing is incredibly uncomfortable. The art quality isn't always consistent. And the characters are sometimes very difficult to relate to. It's not a perfect show by any fucking means, and I understand why some people look at Snap and Caraway and cringe at the representation for being as off-kilter as it can be. But even with all of its problems, this story makes me feel seen. It makes me feel like my experiences as a queer person are valid, and it reminds me that I and people like me are loved, regardless of who we are.
Would you still like me if I painted my nails?
Only if you promise to stick to flattering colors.
Be serious.
I am. Snap, I'm here for you forever, no matter what.
You sniveling sycophants. It's true. I went to a great deal of trouble recreating the Pharaoh's deck, strategies, even his perfectly coiffed hair. In fact, that part is what took the longest.
Man, I could be watching Yu-Gi-Oh right now. So, let's get this out of the way. Representation does not equate to good quality. And to cover my bases, because there's always that one person who misses the point, and it's the same kind of people who like sticking knives in the toasters. Representation is important in the media. I'm not against the inclusion of such characters in fiction or whatever. What I am against is poor writing in characters like that. However, you shouldn't just accept whatever representation there is. You should demand there be good representation. That leads us to the self-insert character, and yes, I'm calling him a self-insert, Professor Caraway.
I'm transgender.
Not only does this scene not really have anything to do with the rest of the episode, which is also a disorganized mess of juggling multiple plots, but this explanation of a trans person for 30 seconds really comes out of nowhere. Then Rose moves on like exposition dump never happened. The episode has nothing to do with being trans or having your life altered forever by a decision that you think is for the best. At best, it's more in line with the tragedy of Neppy Cat.
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
So, what's up with the disclaimer?
I cannot believe how many dongs Rosemary drew in her diary.
Is this show for mature audiences or not? If it is for mature audiences, then why are you giving a lecture to adults? Especially in this time where trans is a much more common thing in our world. Why are you hand-holding your audience? You know, this actually gives me vibes to that one scene in Genlock where they spend time for explaining gender fluidity to an adult.
Sometimes, not now. Perhaps again soon. I sense the pressure coming on again in a way I haven't in a long time. You'll never know.
You know, a show that supposedly takes place in the future and thus would be more common for this to happen because, you know, it's kind of common now. It's moments like these that really take you out of the world and really makes you question if there's a potion that can change a person's gender, why is being trans such an oddity? There's a product that does this. Same-sex couples are a thing and not too out there, so why is being trans not a concept known to the wider public in this world?
I don't know, it's like the girls, they look so strong and beautiful as mermaids. I want to be a warrior like that. But you can't change what you were born into.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
And while I'm about to go into new magic in the next section, it's a really weird thing to complain about when there's magic that can actively change a person's appearance. But the biggest issue is this.
Snapdragon, listen.
You say I can change paths, but it's not like I can just stop being a guy. That was weird. I'm being weird. I'm sorry.
You're not weird. Do you know anything about transition magic?
What the hell is this?
Now, before I tell you a few things about this scene, which out of context is really bad, you need to realize that before this scene, there was an action where Snapdragon was getting bullied because he dressed up as a mermaid.
Your dad must be thrilled to call you his daughter. I said shut up!
Snapdragon, stop!
Freak!
Wow, son, we need to have a word.
So there's more issues to Snapdragon's problems, other than just gender dysphoria, since some of Snapdragon's problems come from external issues rather than just internal. Even if he did transition with that magic potion, that wouldn't stop the issue of Snap being bullied. If anything, considering this jackass who made fun of him for dressing up as a mermaid, it'd probably make things a little worse. That's just logical thinking. This is mostly due to the pacing and how the show frames it, but to me it's a bit too quick to jump into the magic potion that changes your gender. It's not a magical cure-all for all Snap's issues. What doesn't help is the scene is stilted, wooden, clearly directed at the audience as some kind of message, and really has some odd vibes to it. Hell, if you look online, you'll see that some people who are actually trans or not are a little bit on the iffy side with the show. Now, since I am not trans, I can't speak to that. I can only give you my own perspective, and whether or not that makes any sense to you, well, I guess that's up to you to decide. But what doesn't help is the way they drew Snapdragon, as it comes off as not really addressing his actual issues or problems that he's facing.
I hate being big.
Big? Snap, you are a toothpick!
My boxy shoulders, and this...
What? What are you even touching? You don't have any hair on that chin. What beard are you even talking about? This design does not work for this. What the hell?
It's over.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Snake!
What happened? Snake! Snake!
Hell, if anything, this kind of flies in the face of a moral showing that just because you're a guy, that doesn't mean you have to be stereotypically masculine. That you can be a pretty boy or like girly things and still be strong your own way. There's nothing wrong with liking stuff like that. You know, kind of like what Kanji Tatsumi was in Persona 4.
Did you say gay?
Now, to be fair, there is another scene, well, after another scene after that, so pacing and editing made that scene far worse, but again, we get this line.
Snapdragon, you have time to figure it out. There are so many paths to becoming your true self, and this one is mine. I'm not saying that it's yours. There are always more options than you think.
Okay, now you have my attention.
Thank you. Back to my original point, Professor Caraway is pretty boring as a character. There's nothing to him other than the fact that he's trans and that we learn what he likes to do in his free time.
I know a place we can go.
You know, Ray, I can appreciate your artistic choices, but I really don't need to know about your personal kinks. Caraway is essentially an exposition device, and he barely serves any purpose in any of the story. And with how he's portrayed, he just seems to act as a mouthpiece for the creator. At least that's the vibe I got. At this point, I kinda checked out since my brain was shut down from the terrible pacing and dullness of it. And that's a bad thing. I'm not against trans characters, but actually make them characters. You want trans characters to be a normality? Treat them as normal. Don't have them be a mouthpiece, and actually give them a personality outside their sexual preferences and their gender identity. That's how you make a good trans character. You don't just have their identity be their personality.
Wow, son, we need to have a word.
What's in your hands?
There's nothing in my hands.
What's in your
officer.
hands?
Nothing, I
Open your
swear.
hands.
All right.
Oh, what are you, a comedian?
Actually, officer, I'm a magician.
The magic and morals of the show are really inconsistent, and it shows that the writers really don't have an understanding of how things work and how if you have something in between your ears, this world is really wonky. Like, there's an obvious push of new magic. The show loves to beat over your head that new magic is better than old magic, that the old ways are bad.
What? Are we done?
Snapdragon, this is your father's weapon?
It is.
There are times when the weapon one inherits is not inherently best suited to them.
Man, what a crappy teacher. He does nothing to help Snapdragons with his axe work to see if he can properly use the axe. He just instantly thinks that Snapdragon will be good with a rapier, and while he is, there's the thing. Training. You can tell that the creators had no idea how weapon training works, especially when using actual weapons. You don't do that with young students, and you don't let them spar with actual weapons! This is what should have happened during that class. This is kind of a horrible lesson to teach, also. Hey kids, if you suck at doing something, don't try to actually put in the work to see if you're capable of doing it. Just drop it and try something else. Dude, if I had stopped at drawing when I initially sucked, I wouldn't be as good as I am today. This teacher didn't even attempt to teach Snapdragon, and that's not how teaching works. It's possible to do that, but with how we've seen, there's barely any actual development. I chalked this up to the pacing again. Now back to the magic, we're told that new magic can do anything, and with very little cost. Okay, so why hasn't there been any magic for communication? You may think that's not a good question, but let me tell you. I bring this up because one of the ongoing quote-unquote plots is Time trying to reach her father to tell him about a magical fountain that could save her home. Also, side note, she loses her vial of water that has it, but there's literally nothing stopping her from going back to get it, so the emotional scene in which Olive drops it kinda loses a lot of emotional impact. I mean, what also doesn't help is that Time's face looks weird when she drops it. I should not be laughing at your emotional moment here. Anyway, in order to relay that message to her father, Time has to summon a demon.
Has he lost his mind? Because he just said something really crazy.
So, do magic cell phones not exist? There's magic that can change your gender for a month, magic that can warp reality, and even magic that can allow you to teleport. Why can't I get a magic cell phone? Now that I think about it, yeah, if the girls had the ability to be like Magi Rangers, that'd be so much better. Turning bad guys into soccer balls is awesome. What? It's a lot more creative than the magic that was used in High Guardian Spice. But that's just one of the oddities of magic in the show, and how it beats you over the skull with the morals it's trying to teach. Like, there's a consistent theme of Sage being worried about what her mother would think if she uses new magic. It's something the show really wants you to take notice of, even after she gets a Terra Sphere, which is basically the magic MacGuffin that allows you to use new magic. I get that, but after proclaiming that new magic is so great, it decides that new magic is too dangerous since an instant spell was capable of turning an entire town to stone. So, what's the point then? Is it good or bad? There are shades of gray with the magic, but it falls flat when they continue to glamorize new magic despite the obvious flaw. Hell, back in the classrooms in an earlier episode, when we watched Sage create potions, she creates a potion that cures people, and she used old magic to do it. So, what is going on here? It could have been interesting to talk about, but nah, we gotta focus on the characters annoying each other. It doesn't help that the majority of the male characters in the show, save for Snapdragon, who's been confirmed to be trans, are either shown to be dopey.
You know Inkles? They're, slimy. So, you know.
Can you help us with an exchange, or should we get Alma?
I can. What'd you need, Bumbleseed?
Jackasses!
Hey girl, you're really tipping the scales of sexy. I hope you're single. We'd be fantastic together.
Cal?
Wait, Snapdragon? You, dude, why are you dressed like a girl?
Okay, I need a rant for a sec, cause has this guy never even heard of, like, people dressing up as opposite genders before? It's not like this is a foreign concept in our own world. There are costumes specifically made for guys who dress up like women for Halloween. Why is this such a big deal, and why is this guy acting like this? The culture in this world makes no friggin' sense to me! Ah!
This is messed up.
Let's start the party!
Or dumb and oblivious.
Whoa! Must be reinforced. How often do you take it in for a tune-up?
Never, dimwit. The sword's immutable.
She's right. It gets nicked, the hilt can break, but the metal's enchanted, so,
Well, for such a great sword, you don't really take good care of it.
Yeah.
First lesson is how to take pride in your weapons.
And it's apparently fine to use violence to solve situations.
Whoops! Dropped my hammer. I should be more careful.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could work out a...
No. Son, we need to have a word.
The same parties.
What great messaging this show has.
You disappoint me, young snake.
The show is boring. But as I stated before, the show clearly isn't for me, so maybe my criticisms don't actually matter. But if that's the case, who's the show for? The art style and how the show treats its audience makes you think it's for kids, but with the graphic violence and disclaimer, it's for mature audiences. It's confusing as all hell.
When you see the walls fall in and your throat close.
None of us should be going in there. Why would any of you choose to walk into this nightmare?
Because we want to be guardians.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Well, ho, Zinnia, going for the old voluntary expulsion.
Don't you at least want to stay and find out what our quest is going to be?
I'ma go to space, bitches!
For the record, I find cowardice in others very attractive.
And don't get me wrong, I know the woes that the creator Ray is going through, how something that you finally managed to get produced into an actual show and how the internet is reacting to it negatively. I can only imagine what's going on through his mind, how a work that you put yourself into, literally, is being ripped apart. And while I've stated that the writing isn't all that great and I certainly don't appreciate being blocked by the creator, the biggest issue stems from Crunchyroll and how they portrayed the show. I may sound like a broken record, but if this show just came out on Netflix, it wouldn't have gotten such a negative reception. Hell, it still have the issues that I brought up, but at the very least, it wouldn't have had this vitriol backed into it from the get-go. Crunchyroll touted this show as being a gift from the gods, that it was being groundbreaking, telling a story that we haven't seen before, putting the creators and what they identify as the forefront instead, you know, the show. This is the politicization of art, which of course, ends art. While there are some political messages in the show, overall it's not heavily politicized. But Crunchyroll decided that, whoops, we got a virtue signal! At least that's what I think is what happened. There's nothing wrong with having a political message in a show, but some people take it away too far, and that's what Crunchyroll did. It didn't help that it kept touting on the fact that they were helping the anime industry with money that they were given. Oh yes, help the anime industry by supporting a Western cartoon! So yeah, I think the show's bad, not offensively bad, but was put into a terrible situation because Crunchyroll is garbage. So, thanks for the support. I welcome you to the channel if you're new. Thanks for making the last video a banger, and thanks for making me suffer through this one. I love you! I'm MangaKamen, and remember to examine your fandom. Bye-bye!
Wow.
She can